I never imagined being kicked out by my daughter after her 10M win, until I learned the truth. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The air was thick with disbelief as I stepped into the house. The echoes of laughter were replaced by a chilling silence. My heart raced. I searched for her, my beloved daughter, hoping to see her bright smile. Instead, I found only darkness. Rachel stood there, arms crossed, eyes blazing. $10 million changed her. Money turned dreamers into monsters. How had we let it come to this? I thought about the nights we cried together over her struggles, her long nights at the bar, hoping for a break. And then it happened. That fateful ticket. A flash of hope. A miracle turned nightmare. "Mom, I can't keep you here anymore," she said. Her voice trembled like the very ground beneath my feet. I looked around, searching for the warmth of our memories, the cluttered living room filled with her childhood trophies, the photo walls that told our story. Now they felt like a mausoleum. I could see the change, the way the money had twisted her resolve. Friends turned strangers whispered behind her back. "She's gone Hollywood," one said. Their judging eyes pierced through me, waiting for my reaction. No one understood. No one could see the person I raised. Desperation clawed inside me. Had I failed her? The lump in my throat grew. Rachel's hands shook, and I could tell this was harder for her than it was for me. What happened to the girl who needed me? The one who called my name in the middle of the night, pouring her heart out? She was slipping away, and all I could do was stand there. A sudden crash echoed from the kitchen. I turned. A framed photo of us falling to the floor. The glass shattered. It felt symbolic, our shattered bond. "Rachel, please," my voice broke, but she refused to meet my gaze. "I can't keep living this lie, Mom. It's not fair anymore." Her words stung, sharp like glass. Fair? What was fair when everything had changed so abruptly? I felt the walls closing in. The door slammed as I stood there, frozen. Was this it? Was this how it all ended? With her betrayal? With the bitter taste of loss? I couldn't process it, each second dragging painfully. Just then, a thought flickered through my mind, something she had mentioned months ago, whispers of a strange investor. Who were they? What had they done to my girl? Answers slipped through my fingers like sand. I was losing everything. The money had taken her, but what about the truth? Something was brewing beneath the surface, an undercurrent I couldn't grasp. Was I too late to reclaim my daughter? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As the door closed behind Rachel, a suffocating emptiness engulfed the house. I sank onto the couch, staring blankly at the shards of glass that now littered the floor, fragments of a life I once knew, slivers of joyous memories forever altered. Each piece caught the light, reminding me of the laughter we shared, the bond we nurtured, and the realization of a dream turned nightmare. I fought back tears, swallowing the bitterness. One question haunted me: what had I done wrong? I had always tried to be her mom, her guide through life's tumult. Had I failed to navigate this uncharted territory of wealth and greed? A sudden knock pulled me from my spiraling thoughts. I wiped my eyes hastily, blurting out, "Coming." As I opened the door to find a familiar face, Mrs. Thompson, my elderly neighbor. Her silver hair shimmered in the dim hallway light as she peered at me with concern. "Sweetheart," I heard shouting. "Is everything all right?" Her voice dripped with genuine care, and for a moment, I felt a glimmer of warmth amidst my turmoil. "It's complicated," I uttered, the weight of my defeat feeling like lead in my chest. She stepped into my chaos, setting a tray of warm cookies on the cluttered dining table as if sweetness could mend broken bonds. "I brought these for you. Figured you could use a little comfort food." As the aroma of freshly baked cookies wafted through the air, my heart ached. Once, Rachel and I had indulged in baking sessions, our flour-dusted faces erupting in laughter, memories of joy that felt insurmountably distant now. "Thank you, Mrs. Thompson," but my voice trailed off as I glanced at the scattered muffin tins and half-hearted decorations that spoke of a past. She placed a hand on my shoulder. "Would you like to talk about it?" What could I say? I felt the universe closing in on me, but as I inhaled the scent of her cookies, something within stirred a reminder that even in moments of despair, kindness lingered. I invited her in. Rachel won $10 million, and now I don't know her anymore. I thought money would help, but I searched for words that would make sense, but none came. Mrs. Thompson listened patiently, nodding slowly. Her presence softened my heart, allowing me to release the words that had been trapped inside me. "I feel betrayed, like she's gone. All the dreams I had for her, they've vanished." "Money changes everything, dear," she said gently. "But it doesn't have to take away the love. You just have to remind her." Hope flickered in my chest, but uncertainty followed closely. "How? I can't even reach her." "That's where the love comes in," she suggested. "Sometimes, it's a small gesture, a reminder of your bond. Have you thought about a letter?" A letter. The idea overwhelmed me with its simplicity, yet felt monumental. I could pour my heart onto those pages, free fall through my thoughts and feelings without interruptions. Maybe Rachel needed to see that I was still her mom, the one who still believed in her worth beyond the dollar signs. As I set to writing, Mrs. Thompson flitted around my kitchen, tidying and humming softly, filling the empty spaces with light. "You know, sometimes, all someone needs is to feel that they are still a part of something, even when everything around them seems to change." I put pen to paper, my thoughts flowing out in a rush, each stroke echoing a piece of my heart. I recounted our memories. "Remember when we built that snowman in the front yard? The night we spent on the roof, counting stars and dreaming of the future?" I needed her to remember who she was beyond the money. I needed her to know that I would always love her. But just as the hope began to build, the phone vibrated on the table, tearing my focus away. Glancing at the screen, I saw an unfamiliar number. My heart pounded against my ribs. Should I answer? Hesitating, I let the silence stretch until, finally, I pressed accept. "Is this Jennifer?" A gravelly voice crackled from the other end. "Yes," I replied, a knot tightening in my throat. "Listen carefully," he said, his tone low and foreboding. "You need to know about Rachel. It's not what you think. There are things happening you don't understand." My heart raced, panic flooding my senses. "What do you mean?" The line crackled, then a sinister chuckle echoed before he continued, "You should dig a little deeper. The reason she's changed is more than just the money." The line disconnected, leaving me in stunned silence. Everything inside me froze, the weight of his words sinking in. Was there a truth lurking beneath the surface I hadn't seen? My chest tightened as a new worry unfurled within me, weaving a tapestry of dread. What had Rachel gotten herself into? With every sense heightened, the uncertainty thickened the air. I clutched the crumpled letter I wrote, and just as it felt like hope was within my grasp, an even larger storm brewed on the horizon, one that threatened to pull us further apart. As I stood there, the lifeless phone in my hand, Mrs. Thompson's gentle presence felt more comforting than ever. I faced her, my heart pounding like a wild drum, the gravity of that call pressing down on me. "Rachel, she's in trouble. I don't know how deep this goes, but I need to figure it out." Mrs. Thompson's brow furrowed with concern. "Sometimes it takes a village to find the truth and pull someone back to safety," she declared, her voice a soothing balm to my fractured mind. "You aren't alone in this, dear. You have me to help." The warmth of her support reassured me, but a darker shadow of anxiety crept in. I thought I had failed Rachel, but now, what if I had to save her from something far more sinister? The old woman rummaged through her purse and extracted a small notepad. "Let's write down everything you know. We need to clarify the situation." That I felt buoyed by her resolve. Together, we filled pages with every detail I could recall. I described Rachel's transformation, the glitzy parties, the new friends who seemed more like leeches than companions. As we wrote, my thoughts bounced between hope and despair, a pendulum swinging violently. "Didn't she mention anything unusual?" Mrs. Thompson asked, her eyes keen and focused. I closed my eyes, searching for recollections that felt misplaced in the present chaos. I remembered a fleeting conversation, a moment when Rachel described a stranger approaching her after one of her big win show. He had offered her more than mere friendship. "There was something about his eyes," I said slowly, recalling the way they glimmered, cold and calculating. "I didn't think much of it at the time." Mrs. Thompson nodded, her expression grave. "And that's what fear does. It clouds our judgment. You must reach your daughter and help her see the dangers." After we completed the list, I could clearly see the path, the steps I needed to take to reach Rachel. But a new realization tugged heavily at me. Could I even find her within this new world laced with greed? Just as I was about to voice my concerns, a knock resonated through the stillness of the house. My heart leaped again. Who else could be at my door? I exchanged a quick glance with Mrs. Thompson, who appeared just as hesitant as I felt. I opened the door, revealing a tall figure clad in dark denim and a leather jacket, the kind I'd come to associate with youthful rebellion. I recognized him instantly, Tyler, Rachel's latest friend cum connection, an enigma who lingered at the edges of Rachel's life. Hi. "Can I come in?" he asked, his tone casual yet edged with urgency. "Why?" I frowned, memories of how those friends affected Rachel filling my mind with worry. "Listen, I just got off the phone with Rachel." He crossed his arms, glancing around, as though someone might be watching. "She's in way over her head, and she's not safe." A flicker of hope ignited inside me. Could this be a sign? "You know where she is?" I pressed, desperate. "No," he replied, shaking his head. "But she's meeting with some people tonight. Dangerous people. She doesn't get it, but I do. I came to warn you." The ominous weight of his words slammed into me. "What kind of people?" He hesitated, and in that split second, I saw the boy I had once hoped Rachel would befriend, the one who would lift her spirit rather than tether her in darkness. "You need to stay close tonight. Something big is going to happen, and if I can't convince her to leave with me, she might get pulled in deeper than any of us want." Fear rushed through my veins, mingling with fierce protectiveness. "I have to stop this. How do I find her?" Tyler stepped closer, his eyes stormy with emotion. "I can help, but you have to trust me." My instincts clashed. He was not only a part of the unknown but also the embodiment of everything Rachel found enticing of late. Yet, this was the only thread I had, a lifeline to my daughter in a sea of uncertainty. "Okay," I finally breathed, my voice trembling. "I'll trust you, but if you're lying I'm not," he interrupted, urgency sharpening his tone. "But we need to move. If she meets with them, it's not just money at stake, it's her. She's lost in their world, and unless we act fast, I don't know if she'll come back." As we rushed to gather our things, the enormity of the mission loomed over me. Mrs. Thompson stood beside me, her unwavering faith a reminder of the goodness amid destruction. Before exiting, I turned back, my heart racing with the fear of loss. "Thank you," I whispered to her, hoping she sensed the gravity of my struggle. "Just bring her back," she murmured back, with a strength that fortified my spirit. An emotional storm surged within me as I stepped out into the unknown, with Tyler like stepping off a cliff without knowing if the ground was beyond the plummet. I had no idea what awaited me, but I could not abandon hope, even as the darkness beckoned from every shadow. "Let's save my daughter," I whispered fiercely, feeling both terrified and resolute, an echo of strength buried deep within my soul. And as we plunged into the night, knowing all too well that a new chapter lay ahead, one that could shatter everything I thought I knew, the phone buzzed again, Rachel's name flashing across the screen, the heaviness of foreboding flooding back. The phone trembled in my grip as I stared at Rachel's name glowing like a beacon amid the encroaching darkness. My heart raced, teetering on the edge of fear and hope, but I wrestled with the overpowering sense of dread that clawed at my insides. It felt like an invitation into a labyrinth, a place where only confusion and danger awaited. "Answer it," Tyler urged, his voice sharp with insistence. "She may need you more than you know." I nodded, swallowing hard to clear the knot in my throat. My mind spiraled through every possible version of this encounter, and I felt torn. Each potential outcome weighed with a different kind of heartbreak. Taking a breath, I pressed the answer button. "Rachel?" I breathed, keeping my voice steady despite the trepidation swelling inside me. A pause hung heavy on the line before she spoke, her voice trembling as it flowed through the phone. "Mom?" Hearing her voice cracked something within me, an echo of my daughter's strength nearly drowned in the chaos around her. "Rachel. Thank God. Where are you?" "Tyler says you're in trouble." "I can't talk for long," she interrupted, her tone edged with urgency. "I'm busy, with the people I told you about. You have to trust me." "I'm doing it for me this time." The terse, brisk nature of her words pierced me. "Rachel, please. Do you understand what's happening? These people are dangerous. You don't know what you're getting into. You don't get it, Mom. I'm finally winning. This is my chance to be someone." Her voice sharpened, radiating a fierce determination, but it was laced with something deeper, a fear of being left behind. "What about us? What about your family?" I pleaded, my heart aching at the rift growing between us. "I have to go. I'll call you later." And before I could respond, the line went dead, leaving a hollow silence in her wake. I exhaled shakily, the weight of her words crashing onto me like a tidal wave. She was caught in a web of ambition, and I was standing on the outside, feeling increasingly powerless to reach her. Tyler's hand clenched my shoulder, grounding me, but it didn't erase the bitter taste of loss that lingered. "Where do we go now?" I muttered, fighting back tears that threatened to surface. "Follow me," Tyler urged, his voice firm and steady. "I know where they meet. We can still get to her. She's lost in this world, but it's not too late." He led me through the darkened streets, the city's pulse thrumming beneath our feet. Each step felt heavy, chasing the memory of Rachel's once unbreakable spirit. I clung to the notion that I still had a chance to pull her back from the edge. The deeper we walked into the night, the more fear whispered its chilling promises. Was it really only Rachel's ambition that anchored her to these dangerous people, or was there something more insidious at work? "Tell me about these people she's with," I said, forcing myself to focus even as worry clawed at my heart. Tyler hesitated, glancing over his shoulder as if weighing the implications of his words. "They're not who they seem. They promise everything, but they'll take everything from her too. I've seen it happen to others. Rachel's not the first and she won't be the last if we don't get to her." A cold shiver ran through my bones as he spoke. Those words were a relentless reminder that there were consequences to this life and they could ripple through our family like a wildfire. In that moment, I realized that Rachel's gamble reached far beyond money. It was a risk to her very essence. As we neared the location Tyler indicated, I could feel the air grow thicker, crackling with tension. The shadows around us deepened, swallowing the light. It was a world I couldn't comprehend, one that felt like a nightmare inching closer and hanging over my head like a dark cloud. We arrived at a tucked-away bar that oozed with a grim allure. The flickering neon lights seemed to flicker with warnings, yet they invited us into the abyss. Tyler stepped ahead, glancing back at me with eyes that recognized my fear. "You ready to do what needs to be done?" I whispered, the resolve hardening in my chest. As we entered, the air thickened with smoke and laughter that felt unnaturally saccharine, masking something sinister lurking under its facade. My gaze settled on the shadows in the back, where I spotted Rachel's unmistakable silhouette, surrounded by unfamiliar figures whose features were obscured. A sense of peril washed over me. "Stay close," Tyler whispered urgently. But before I could nod, a voice called out from deeper within, chilling my core. "Rachel. There you are." I turned sharply, my eyes scanning the dimly lit corners of the bar, and I froze. A man stepped forward, the light catching his face just long enough for me to recognize him, and terror roared to life in my chest. He was the stranger with the cold, calculating eyes from Rachel's earlier encounter, the one I had dreaded would lead her astray. "Mom, wait." Rachel's voice rang out, a mix of surprise and defiance as she turned to me, but it was too late. The man reached for her arm, a gesture that seemed innocent in the moment but felt like a noose tightening around Rachel's fate. "Mom, I'm fine. I told you, I'm dealing with this." Rachel's voice rose above the noise, but it was fear I heard masquerading as strength. The stakes had just dramatically escalated, and I could see Rachel teetering dangerously close to a precipice from which I might not be able to pull her back. I took a step forward, the entire space warping as the reality of this situation dawned on me. Here was no way this confrontation would be quiet. "Rachel," I shouted, hope pinging against the despair. "You need to come with me now." But just as I approached, the gravity of the moment shifted, and the man's dark eyes locked onto mine with an intensity that chilled my blood. "She's better off with me," he said smoothly, and I could see the tantalizing promise of power reflected in his gaze, a dangerous allure that threatened to ensnare my daughter. With every breath, I felt the urgency swell, knowing that every second wasted was another moment of Rachel's innocence slipping away. As I stepped closer, the air buzzed with electricity, the stirring of a fierce battle looming on the horizon, one that would force us to confront the truth or risk losing everything. And just as I was about to reach for her, the bar doors slammed open, and in stepped a figure, a twist of fate about to unfold before us, one that would shatter everything I feared. The sudden entrance of the figure silhouetted against the bar's neon glow stole my breath. Their presence had an undeniable weight, a ripple of anxiety spreading through the crowd. I felt time stretch as I turned my gaze, a mix of dread and curiosity blossoming in my chest. The figures stepped closer, shedding the darkness that cloaked them. My heart thundered in my ears, suddenly hyper-aware of each shuffling footstep and murmur around me. And then, like an unwelcome flash of lightning, recognition struck, a face from my past, long buried beneath layers of hurt and rejection. "Annie?" I breathed, disbelief mingling with a freshly ignited fear. She hadn't changed much, her fierce, striking green eyes still smoldering with an urgency that pulled at my memories like a magnet. I hadn't seen her in years. "Do they even know you're here?" she asked, her voice low but intense. It was a challenge wrapped in concern, as if she was seeing through the facade I had carefully constructed over the years. For a brief moment, all other thoughts stuttered to a halt. I could feel Rachel's eyes dart between me and Annie, a mix of confusion and defiance etched onto her youthful features. I could almost hear Rachel's thoughts colliding. Who was this woman? Why did she care? "Annie, this isn't the time," I whispered, desperation pooling within me. "I can't lose Rachel. Not now. Not when." But she cut me off, her voice unwavering. "Not when what? When you let her run wild among wolves? That's what you're doing, and you know it." I swallowed hard, fighting back a flood of emotions. Annie had always had a way of cutting right to the bone, and I couldn't afford any distractions or unresolved feelings now, not when Rachel was ensnared by a man whose hold on her was palpable and dangerous. "Rachel, come here." I pleaded again, this time with a resolve that radiated from somewhere deep within. Somewhere I knew was still there despite my fears and insecurities. "What's happening?" Rachel shouted, her voice strained. She was caught between me and the man with the cold eyes. I could see it in the way her fingers curled against the table, a silent debate raging in her mind. "Rachel, this isn't what you think," I said, our connection fluttering like a fragile flame. "Those people don't want what's best for you. They only want to use you. Can't you see that?" The man tilted his head, an amused expression ghosting across his features. "You have no idea what she wants, do you? This is about power, and girl here is on the brink of something great." But even amidst the chaos descending into a knot of shouting and disbelief, I caught Annie's eyes again. She was shaking her head slowly, as if she understood the stakes even more than I did. Rachel glanced from me to the man and then back again, her heart visibly tugging in two different directions. "How can you know, Mom?" You left. The words hit me like shards of broken glass, and I felt the world around us blur momentarily. "Rachel, that's not relevant. I almost shouted, but it suddenly felt like everything was boiling inside of me. I couldn't let her be lost in this, couldn't let her believe that my past mistakes dictated her future. But Annie's voice cut through, steady and fierce. You need to choose, Rachel. This isn't just about you, this is about everyone who's ever cared about you. And it's about breaking a cycle that's been going on too long. Though she directed it at Rachel, it felt like a dagger aimed at me too. I felt the weight of my choices pressing down like a heavy cloak, and I desperately wanted to shed it. Suddenly, Rachel took a step back, glancing between me and Annie. You all think you know what's best for me. But maybe I'm tired of that. Tired of living in someone else's shadow. No. I cried out, feeling the walls pressing in around me. It's not about living in shadows. It's about saving you. These people will destroy you, Rachel, but she was already too far gone, her gaze locking onto the man's as if he held all the answers to her untold dreams. Maybe I want to take that risk, she said defiantly, a challenge waiting on her lips, just when I thought the situation couldn't spiral further. Annie stepped forward into the light, her expression suddenly grave. Rachel, listen to me, there's something you don't know. Something your mother never told you. The noise of the bar faded, the laughter became nothing but hollow echoes, and all I could do was stare at her, heart sinking. What are you talking about? The truth hovered like an impending storm, and in that moment, a deafening silence fell over us all. I never wanted to, she began, her eyes filling with an urgency that glimmered like steel. But I can't keep it hidden any longer. And before I could brace myself, Annie's words all but shattered the fragile web that held us together. Rachel, I'm your sister. The implications knocked the air out of me, and the world narrowed down to the horrified expression blossoming across Rachel's face. Me daughter, tangled in a web of chaos, lies, and tumultuous feelings that were about to unravel everything we thought we knew. The air in the bar crackled with tension, an electric pulse that mirrored my racing heart. I could hardly comprehend Annie's words, they hung heavy and suffocating around us. Rachel's expression morphed from confusion into disbelief, her eyes darting between me and Annie, as if seeking answers that eluded all of us. What do you mean? You're lying. Rachel's voice trembled with a blend of fear and fury, the potent cocktail of teenager emotions erupting like a firework display gone wrong. She looked between us, her breath coming in quick, shallow gasps. You can't just say things like that. I know it sounds insane, Annie said, her voice a low rumble, taut like a bowstring. But it's true, Rachel. I never wanted you to find out this way. But you deserve to know. The truth loomed over our heads like a dark cloud, threatening to pour down all at once, soaking us in revelations we weren't prepared to face. I could feel my own composure slipping away, the anger, shame, and remorse twisted into a ball of anguish in my chest. No, no, no. I managed to utter, desperate to shut down whatever chain of events was about to unfold. Mom, why didn't you tell me? Rachel's eyes glistened with heartbreak, shock warping her features. She stepped back, as though creating distance from the very foundations of her identity that were now crumbling like sandcastles in an advancing tide. That I thought I was protecting you, I exclaimed, my voice cracking under the weight of my guilt. I thought you were better off not knowing. But even as I said those words, I felt the hollowness of my own defense. The truth was a fractured mirror reflecting every misstep I had taken, and I knew it could never truly keep her safe, protecting me. Rachel spat, her voice laced with bitterness. By lying to me? By hiding my own family? Rachel, please, just listen. I reached out instinctively, but the moment I did, she recoiled as if my touch burned her. Each inch between us felt like a chasm being carved deeper. I can't do this right now. Rachel turned on her heel, her boots slapping against the polished floor as she sought an escape from the chaos swirling around us. I watched helplessly, my heart in free fall as she dashed toward the exit. The thrill of that night, the celebration of her monumental win, now shattered and replaced by a haunting void. My gaze swung back to Annie, who stood resolute, the tempest of emotions swirling in her eyes as she prepared for the aftermath of her revelation. "What the hell were you thinking?" I hissed, fury bubbling up like lava through my veins. "You didn't have the right to spill that truth like some cheap secret, but it was the truth, even if it was hard to swallow," she shot back, unyielding and firm. "You let her chase a dangerous storm without knowing she could have someone standing beside her. She needed someone who could guide her when you couldn't. What are you trying to say? That you're some kind of savior?" I spat, bitterness lacing my words. Rage twisted in my gut for more than just Annie's intrusion. It was a bitter cocktail of guilt and regret for the small pieces of the truth I had hidden from Rachel, a reality that could have shaped her life differently. No, I'm not saying that. Annie's voice softened, the fire in her eyes cooling to a flicker. "I'm saying she deserves answers now. Not just about who I am, but about you too." Suddenly, the noise of the bar returned, drowning out the heavy silence that lingered after Rachel fled. Patrons around us, oblivious to the impending storm that raged between us, continued their conversations, laughter echoing like mockingbirds in the trees. "People don't get to choose the families they're born into, but they deserve the truth," she continued, her tone unwavering. "Your daughter has the right to know everything, every reckless decision, every fracture in your past. Running from it only breathes life into the cycle." The words were a knife to my gut, sharp and raw. I could feel my defenses crumbling beneath her steady gaze, the unflinching fire that had always been Annie's hallmark. Was she right? Had I been so consumed by my own fears that I had failed my daughter in a way I hadn't even realized? But even as doubt festered in my heart, something within me sparked a flicker of hope. I wanted to reach Rachel, to find a way back to her before the distance turned into a chasm too wide to cross. "I need to find her," I whispered through gritted teeth, my purpose solidifying with every beat of my heart. "Do you think you can just chase her away?" Annie's reminder was muted but laced with an urgency that resonated. "You'll have to confront everything. All the pain, the truth. If you don't, how can she ever trust you again?" For a fleeting moment, I agreed with her. It was ugly and raw, the truth laid bare in a way I never wanted to face. But the possibility of losing Rachel to the darkness that had lingered around us loomed larger than my fears. "That I will confront it, no matter the cost," I said, louder now, allowing the ember of determination to ignite within me. "I owe Rachel that much." But just as I turned to leave, my phone buzzed violently against my hip. I glanced at the screen, expecting a message from Rachel, perhaps a last text of anger or hurt. Instead, my breath caught in my throat as the name flashed before me: David, her new mentor, the man cloaked in shadows that wrapped around her like a chain. In that moment, the weight of everything crashed over me anew. What if he had already done something to her? What if she was already lost to me, drawn deeper into a dangerous world that promised everything yet offered only despair? And before I could call back to Annie about the growing urgency clawing at my insides, I rushed toward the door, every second feeling like a countdown to irretrievable loss. My heart raced as the cold night air poured over me, angst swirling deep inside. I had to find her. But in the shadows beyond the bar, just out of view, a figure lingered, watching and waiting: the man with the cold eyes. And as our gazes locked, horror spread through me like a wildfire. I hadn't just lost Rachel, someone else had already begun to make his claim. I hurried down the street, each step echoing the frantic beat of my heart. The clamorous city around me blurred into a backdrop of muffled sounds, my senses hyper-focused on one thing: finding Rachel. Each sharp breeze pulled at my skin, a reminder of the chilling reality I was steering into. My mind raced through the possibilities, questions spiraling unhindered. What was she doing? Was she safe? Did the words I had overheard earlier now risk to unravel every bond we had built? I rounded a corner, the streetlights flickering ominously overhead as shadows danced around me. Everything felt heavier, laden with unspoken truths. My phone vibrated again, and I glanced down: a missed call from David. The anxiety surged through my veins, and I cursed under my breath. He was the very reason I felt this sense of dread festering in the pit of my stomach. The danger wasn't just a figment of my imagination, it loomed closer, whispering caution in my ear with his every connection to Rachel. Before I could convince myself otherwise, I swiped the phone to call him back, breath hitching as I pressed it to my ear. "David," I managed to say, keeping my voice steady despite the pulse of fear rising within me. "Found your daughter," he replied simply, as if it was just an everyday callback. The casualness of his tone sent ice coursing through my veins. "She's with a few friends. Should I bring her back?" my heart stuttered. "Where?" I snapped, urgency flooding every beat. "You need to tell me where she is right now." He hesitated, and I could feel his calculation on the other end, a subtle moment where he weighed the implications of my demand. "I can't, David, please. Just take me to her," I said, panic creeping into my voice. There was no other way of conveying the depth of my pleading, a mother's desperation echoing down the line. "Okay." His tone shifted, something softer creeping into the harshness. "But let me make it clear, she needs space, too." "I mean it, space?" I nearly laughed. A bitter sound to disguise the wave of grief threatening to drown me. "Space is the last thing she needs right now. You've tangled her in a web without even realizing it. Look, I know it all seems shattered right now, but sometimes, a crisis brings clarity. I'm not saying this is right or wrong, but she loves what she's doing. Show her that you understand that." There was a pause, and I heard him breathe slowly. "You love her too, don't you?" His words hung in the air, mixing in an unsettling way with the confusion clouding my judgment. "Then why the hell didn't you tell me?" I replied, words tumbling out as pressure built in my chest, "Because sometimes not sharing everything keeps the good flames alive until you're ready to face the truth. Trust me, I want to help." I was torn between the truth of his statement and the simmering resentment that rose like steam in my veins. Yes, the flames flickered, but they could burn the entire house down if left unchecked. "Where are you?" I forced myself to ask again, my voice a whisper as anxiety twisted and clawed at my insides. That he gave me a name, a place filled with reckless laughter and the echo of youth, the aftermath of celebration where my daughter had probably lost herself in a wave of euphoria, trying to escape the tangled mess of her newly revealed lineage. I didn't hesitate, racing to the location he provided, dodging throngs of partying people brimming with life. When I arrived, the glow of neon lights wrapped around me, louder than any heartbeat. The entrance to the place was packed with teenagers, the energy suffocating as it pooled into chaotic excitement. Each face was a blur, people spinning in their moments of joy without a clue about the truth crashing down on me, hefty and weighty. I pushed past the throng, desperate to find the one face I knew above all others. My eyes darted around, searching for a flash of her auburn hair, the warmth that used to be my guiding light. Anxiety wrapped around my chest tighter with each passing second. There, through the pulsating crowd, there she was, Rachel, standing close to the bar with her friends, laughter spilling from her lips like sparkling champagne, the light glistening in her eyes. Yet where joy had once felt like a warm embrace, it now struck an unsettling chord in my heart. She didn't seem to have noticed me yet. But before I could take a step toward her, something singular caught my attention, a flicker of motion hovering at the edge of my vision. I turned, heart sinking, as I spotted that figure from before, the man with the cold eyes standing still against the wall, watching Rachel with a predatory intensity. Fear rooted me to the ground as I realized he wasn't just a stranger, he was a shadow looming over her, ready to claim her just as he had claimed so many others. I stepped forward, ignoring the crowd, filled with a determination fueled by fear far greater than I had prepared myself for. "Rachel!" I shouted above the noise, prepared to break through whatever barrier had formed between us. Her laughter fizzled out as she turned toward the sound of my voice. The moment our eyes met, everything else slipped away. Her expression morphed from glee to disbelief, trembling between anger and a potential shield of vulnerability. Then, out of the corner of my eye, I saw the man take a step forward, and my stomach dropped. "Run!" I screamed, my heart pounding in rhythm with the urgency of my command. Rachel's gaze flickered toward him, confusion plaguing her features as my words hung heavy in the air. And in that moment, I realized that the truth might take more than just courage to confront, it could take everything I had left to safeguard the daughter I had nearly lost to the riptide. The future was no longer uncertain, it was a race against an impending danger that loomed on the edge of our reality. I stumbled forward, the sight of Rachel caught between disbelief and the creeping menace behind her. My heart raced, pounding against my ribcage like a wild drum echoing my fear. "Run!" I shouted again, but my voice felt swallowed by the chaos of the club, the neon lights spinning like a vortex around us. Rachel hesitated, her friends engulfed in confusion behind her. "What are you talking about?" "Mom, it's just no. It's him." I pointed frantically to the man, whose calm demeanor stood in stark contrast to his predatory glare. I had no name for him, no explanation other than the sickening instinct that churned in my gut. A tangle of protective energy surged through me, overpowering the layers of fear that had gripped my heart. Before Rachel could respond, the man straightened, his predatory intent shifting into action. He took another step toward her, a calculated advance, and something primal ignited within me. I surged forward, driven by a desperate need to protect her, to shield her from whatever darkness he represented. "Stay back!" I yelled, teeth gritted as I pushed through the throngs of revelers who seemed oblivious to the drama unfolding before them. Each breath I took was a heavy weight, laced with determination. Rachel's eyes widened as she finally registered the urgency in my voice. "Mom, it's okay. You don't need to." "Rachel, no." I interrupted, righting my focus on the intruder, whose icy gaze bore into mine. "You have to trust me." For a fleeting moment, I saw a flicker of understanding in her eyes before suffering through a moment of indecision. Would she believe me? Would she realize that I wasn't just reacting out of fear, but from a place of deep maternal love? A bond that faced its greatest test in this very instant. The man chuckled softly, a melodious sound that felt wrong in this instance. "You really think you can protect her?" His voice was smooth, drenched in ice and condescension that settled in the air. "She's destined for greater things than you can fathom. You should really think about letting her go. Stay away from her." I lunged forward, adrenaline coursing through me as I positioned myself as a shield. Rage coiled within me like a rattlesnake preparing to strike. Rachel tugged my arm, torn between confusion and frustration. "What do you mean letting her go? Who are you?" But my focus was entirely on the man, now creeping closer, as if the space between us hadn't been enough of a boundary for him. "You don't get to dictate what she does or how she lives. She's not yours to claim." A flicker of annoyance crossed his features, and in his gaze, I caught a glimpse of something darker, a promise of power that he wielded carelessly. Anger fed the tension, yet I knew there was distance left to cover. Each step toward him felt like a shift in the balance of our world. "Rachel, listen to me." "You don't understand," I started, regretting that every explanation I had for her now felt hopelessly inadequate. But before I could finish, black fabric brushed against my vision, and I turned just in time to dodge another looming figure, a second man entering the scene with an air of authority that made my skin crawl. I felt the ground beneath me shift, a sudden ripple of fear cascading through the crowd as the presence of danger expanded. "Get out of the way," the second man growled, a heaviness to his words that demanded immediate obedience. I clutched Rachel's arm tighter, refusing to back down. "No!" she shouted in defiance, her spirit igniting like a fuse, lighting the dim corners where fear thrived. "I'm not going anywhere with you." The man's eyes narrowed, annoyance mixing with a hint of admiration. "You really don't know what you're involved in, do you?" he said, as though it were all a game. I could feel the suffocating fear pulling Rachel back, pushing me forward, tearing at the seams of our relationship. "Rachel," I said, desperate to breach the wall of protection I was building against her. "Trust me. We have to leave right now." For a moment, hesitation flickered within her, and I could see the storm brewing in her eyes, the conflict of wanting to stay and knowing she needed to flee. I reached out, brushing her cheek with my hand, pouring my heart into my gaze. The pleading, the love, the undeniable connection between us. That's when I saw the resolve shifting. The moment underpinned with unsteady trust, teetering on the edge like a fragile balance of scales. "You're scaring me," she whispered, her voice tremulous. At that instant, I felt a hand clasp my shoulder, pulling me abruptly from the tension. "Let's go." David's voice sliced through the air, pulling my attention from the embers of uncertainty surrounding Rachel. "David?" I exclaimed, startled but grateful for his presence. "It's not safe here," he said urgently, his expression serious. "We need to get her out." The tension broke momentarily as the man's expression shifted to annoyance, confusion darkening his features. "You have no idea what you're getting into, boy," he sneered at David, dismissing him with contempt. "Not today," David shot back, dragging Rachel closer to him, his intent protective. The urgency barreled through me, an atomic wave of love colliding with fear. "Now!" I urged, but when I turned to lead them both away, the man stepped forward, blocking the path. For an excruciating moment, dread hung heavy as I awaited his next move. Would he lash out? Would this confrontation lead to something darker? Then Rachel's phone vibrated in her pocket, an uncharacteristic escape from the imminent chaos. I grabbed her shoulders, breathless. "No matter what happens, don't look back. We move forward, together." But as she fumbled for her phone, the weight of the impending confrontation hung between us, soaked in shadows. I hadn't expected David's return, nor had I prepared for the grip of dread clenching my gut. "Rachel," I said, my voice tinged with urgency. "Please." And just then, as she lifted the phone to check the message, the effect across her face was instantaneous. Shock washed over her features. She turned to me, eyes wide with something I couldn't quite interpret. "What's wrong?" I asked, knowing I was fishing in a pool of uncharted waters. Before she could answer, before I could fathom the truth behind her expression, the club erupted, a loud crash forcing the music to skitter into silence. And the second man spoke, his voice low and steady as he tilted his head at Rachel. "You thought your little victory at the poker table would go unnoticed?" The weight of his words struck like lightning, a jolt of disbelief crashing against the already strained atmosphere. Confusion surged through me, a crushing array of thoughts igniting in an instant, but my throat tightened as reality settled, the implication twisted like a knife. Rachel's expression shifted again, this time a storm of realization brewing. Then the phone fell from her fingers, the sound echoing off the walls as it clattered to the ground. My heart stopped, the realization dawning upon me nothing was as it seemed, and the truth was now a torrent at our doorstep, threatening to dismantle everything we had fought to protect. And as I met her terrified gaze, the impending danger paled in comparison to the devastation looming in her eyes, a promise of shattered trust ready to break our fragile world. The night had never felt so utterly terrifying, and yet I realized with dread that the most dangerous secrets were still hidden in the shadows, biding their time, waiting to unravel everything. The deafening silence that followed the crash of Rachel's phone felt heavy, suffocating the air around us. I bent down to pick it up, shaking hands, fumbling as my mind raced to piece together the chaos. Rachel's words echoed in my ears, the strange voicemail she had received moments before everything erupted. The sudden tension had silenced the music but amplified the whispers of the onlookers, the thrill of the night replaced by an unsettling dread. "Rachel, what did you just find out?" I asked, my voice a thin thread tethering us to each other amidst the gathering storm. Her eyes darted between me and David, a flicker of vulnerability making my heart ache. She was trapped in a storm of confusion, and all I wanted was to pull her into a safe harbor. "Nothing," she replied too quickly, masking the quake beneath her brave facade. "Just let's go, please." Desperation pooled in her tone, the lump in her throat manifesting a fear I couldn't shake, but before I could respond, the second man's chilling laughter swept through the air. "Not so fast, Rachel. You really need to learn that certain mistakes have consequences." His gaze pierced through the buzzing crowd, igniting a flicker of hope deep inside. Might was a flutter, but a lifeline nonetheless. In a moment of instinct, I gripped Rachel's hand tightly, determined not to let go. "You're not alone in this. Trust me." "Well, face them together," I murmured, locking my eyes on hers, willing her to believe in my unwavering dedication even as the darkness loomed around us. "David," sensing my urgency, stepped in closer. "Can we please leave already? We'll figure this out later. Right now, we have to go. There's no telling what they'll do. No." Rachel's voice raised, fortified by a flicker of anger. "No. I need to understand what's happening here." Her determination made my heart swell, yet I felt an impending doom, her spirit signaling both strength and vulnerability. "We don't have time for this." I snapped back, fear intertwining with my desperation. The two men before us basked in the chaos, anticipating our every move. I caught a glimpse of the entrance, the pulsing lights beckoning like a beacon of safety. But it felt worlds away, separated by a chasm of uncertainty and looming threat. "Life is about choices, Rachel," the second man mused, his tone dripping with mockery. "You made a bold one with that little poker game of yours. I wonder if you knew the full weight of what that victory entailed." Panic seized me as I looked at Rachel, searching for any sign of what he was implying. "Rachel, you didn't." A wealth of colors danced in her eyes, intrigue, fear, and a heavy veil of confusion that enveloped her like a shroud. "I just wanted to win something for once," she cried, her voice breaking a mix of desperation and anger. But then it all turned into this nightmare. The weight of her words struck me like a blow. What had started as a simple desire for triumph now spiraled into something I couldn't begin to comprehend. How had we crossed this threshold without understanding the risks? Win? For what? The second man stepped closer, and I instinctively shielded Rachel, feeling her breath hitch behind me. "Some things aren't won without a price, and now you owe a debt." As he spoke, I felt the air between us crackle with impending danger. David took a small step forward, ready to step into the fray, but I called him back. The last thing I wanted was for him to become another target in this twisted game. "Rachel, we have to get out," I said, urgency coloring my tone. The echoes of the crowd felt distant, surreal. Our world had narrowed to this singular moment filled with peril. No. Her voice resonated. "I can't keep running. I need to stand my ground." Her words lit a spark within me, igniting a sense of purpose, but the weight of her stubbornness settled heavily on my chest. "Standing your ground against who?" I asked, incredulous, my pulse hammering. "There's no fighting without understanding the game, Rachel. We can't fight shadows." The confusion deepened in her gaze, layers of emotion swirling into a tempest of conflict. Each moment felt like an eternal clash of belief. Was it bravery or foolishness that fueled her fire? "Enough of this," the first man barked, stepping closer, his predatory energy palpable. "All you need to know is that things are shifting. Make the wrong move now, and you'll find that your little game of chance could cost you everything you hold dear." Rachel flinched, and within me, a new fear blew me, a fear not of what they were threatening, but of what lay beneath the facade of her surprise success. She had earned something the world deemed valuable, but at what expense? Just then, the sound of sirens wailed in the distance, a glimpse of hope flickering through the oppressive atmosphere. My heart seized, a chance for escape loomed just beyond our grasp. "Rachel, listen to me," I urged, my voice raw with emotion. "We need to leave, now. I don't want to lose you." But before she could answer, the first man's laughter rang out, dark and unsettling. "Oh, didn't you hear? There's nowhere to run. This is just the beginning of a game you could never hope to win." My breath quickened, the acuteness of the moment chipping away at my resolve. The sirens drew nearer, but unlike the sensation of hope they usually invoked, they only magnified the tension enveloping us. As I reached for Rachel again, the man suddenly closed in, inches from my face. "You'll regret this, all of you. The king always collects his due, whether he plays with honor or fate." Even amidst the heightening chaos, a strong sense of unease began to settle in my gut, twisting like a knot. The truth was, I didn't know what awaited us beyond those doors, or if we would ever escape at all. Yet, trapped in the whirlpool of our fate, I felt the veil of uncertainty drew us closer to fate's purposely twisted design, and in that moment, while sirens cried out on the streets outside, Rachel's expression morphed into one of both trepidation and steely determination. There was an unspoken understanding that time was slipping through our fingers, our bond, strained to its breaking point, and I couldn't shake the feeling that the night was far from over. I took a deep breath as an unfamiliar tension coiled around us like a vice. The world outside was dimly lit by city lights, pulsating with life. "Rachel, we have to go, now," I urged, the fervor in my voice breaking through the thickening anxiety. The laughter of those around us felt distant, mere echoes of a reality that no longer fit the moment. "They're not who they seem," I added, my heart racing as I scanned the bar for exits, desperately trying to find a way to shield her from the shadow that loomed closer. "Mom, I can't keep running." Her voice wavered, caught somewhere between defiance and despair. "I want to face this. I want to understand what I've gotten myself into. Facing this may cost you everything, Rachel," I countered, my throat tightening as the realization dawned upon me. The price of ambition seemed far greater than we ever anticipated. The noise of the bar faded as if the air itself held its breath, reflecting the charged emotions sweeping through us. I could see the glint of confusion in her gaze as she wrestled with the enormity of the situation. But the truth was that none of it felt real, none of it felt like the daughter I once knew. The second man stepped forward, a cruel smile etched on his face. "You really have no idea what you're being pulled into, do you?" His voice dripped with condescension, laced with malice. Rachel's hands trembled at her sides. "What is happening here?" she demanded, anger rising to the surface. There was a spark of her old self, a flicker of fire that reminded me of the girl who fought against life's challenges bravely. "It's simple," he replied, leaning forward. "You made a mark, and now people like me want to see just how deep that mark runs. But I'm afraid, dear, the path you've chosen is corrupt," he said, a predatory glee in his voice. "Don't listen to him, Rachel," I shouted, my heart racing at the sight of her standing so close to danger. "You don't owe them anything. You don't owe anyone anything." Suddenly, the bar doors swung open with a crash, and a flood of police officers poured in, lights flashing like strobe lights, their presence a mix of relief and tension that entered the atmosphere. A part of me felt a glimmer of hope. Could this be our salvation? "Everybody freeze!" one officer barked, sending an apprehensive hush through the crowd. But amongst the chaos, I could see the two men shifting, their confidence faltering ever so slightly. I locked my eyes with Rachel, silently pleading. "We can't let them take you. Please, let's go," and just like that, the urgency pushed us into motion. But as I reached for Rachel, the man with the cold eyes snapped his gaze toward us. "You'll regret this, girl. You'll find they will never stop pursuing you if you think you can run." "Stop!" Rachel cried, her voice ringing out above the tumult. It was a plea, an attempt to reclaim whatever semblance of control remained. "I didn't ask for this. I just wanted to win." The man interrupted, his voice oozing with contempt. "You threw yourself into a game without understanding the rules. These victories come at a price." A knot tightened in my stomach as I realized the truth in his words. We hadn't prepared for this. We hadn't prepared for the cost that came with winning at life. "Rachel, we need to go," I urged again, my hand gripping hers firmly as the chaos unfolded around us. "No," she snapped, pulling away with sudden resolve, her eyes ablaze. "You don't get to decide that for me anymore. I'm not a child. I want answers." "Rachel, don't let your pride put you in danger," I breathed, panic rising. But the officer stepped forward, his badge gleaming under the stark lights, and now turned his attention to the escalating scene unraveling before him. "Ma'am, are you all right? Do you need to get away from them?" he asked, his voice strong and filled with authority as he locked eyes with Rachel. "I'm fine," she said defiantly, but uncertainty tugged at the corners of her firm stance. She was caught between her desire for independence and the looming threat of the world she had traded her heart for. The tension hung heavy in the air, and every second stretched painfully thin. "No. You should talk to your mother," the officer insisted, attempting to breach the bubble of chaos that had enveloped us. Don't get wrapped up in this. You don't have to do this alone." And suddenly, out of nowhere, Rachel's vulnerability cracked free, her fierce front shattering like glass. I don't want to keep running. I just want it to be great." Her voice trembled, tears glistening as they threatened to spill over, unmasking the uncertain girl beneath all that bravado. In that instant, the world stopped around us. Something shifted within her, and I recognized it as a turning point. "You are great, Rachel. But not because of this," I urged, racing ahead of my fears, fighting through my own trepidation. This doesn't define you. You are so much more than the mistakes made behind a poker table." The two men steeled themselves, their confidence wavering as they processed her display of emotion. For a moment, I dared to look into her eyes. There was confusion and hurt, but there was also a desperate need to believe. Suddenly, the first man broke the tension, an amused glimmer in his eyes. "You really think you can get her out of this? Just by saying some words?" His laughter filled the void, and I felt rage boil over inside me like a boiling pot left unattended. I stepped forward, defensive. "Get away from her." But the officer pressed closer. "Step back. Everyone needs to calm down." In the frantic air that surrounded us, the situation became palpable. I could feel the tide of emotions contained within each breath shared between Rachel and me, each moment heavy with the weight of our fractured bond. "Rachel," I softened my voice, stepping up to her, drawing her away from the chaos without taking my eyes off the two men, now desperate to reclaim their hold. "You can leave this behind. You don't owe anyone here anything, not me, not them. Please, trust me that I don't want to go back to being a nobody. I'm tired of being overlooked, and now that I have a taste of excitement, I can't just walk away." The desperation in her voice struck a chord within me, but I desperately fought against the reservations filling my heart. In that heated moment, it was clear we were clinging to our own fears. "Do you think they care about you?" I asked, softer now. "Do you think they want to discard you when the thrill runs dry? What if they don't?" She countered, her voice raw, trembling. The sirens continued to wail outside, reaching us like distant echoes of hope. "You have so much within you that nobody can take away, not even these men." My voice broke at the last word, and I felt the tears well up in my own eyes. In that moment, clarity surged. What I needed to show her, despite my own fears, and then inspiration struck. "You know, when you were little, you told me you wanted to be a mermaid. Do you remember?" Rachel blinked, confusion swirling, but the dimmest memory flickered behind her eyes. "Yeah," she said cautiously, watching me closely. "You told me mermaids are free and powerful." "Yes. They swim through challenges, navigate dangers because they are brave enough to journey into uncertainty." The urgency thrummed in my chest. "You have that same courage. Use it to break away from this before it breaks you." As if my words opened a door within her, I saw the tremor of calculations cross her face, a flicker of connection rekindling in her eyes. The chaos around us faded into the background, the music of the world dimming as the spark of hope flickered back to life, the flickering flame of resilience that had once lit her spirit, strong and unwavering. But before I could decipher the look expanding across her features, the second man stepped forward with a fierce shove of energy. "You don't know how desperate this situation is." I felt her draw closer, hesitating once more, and then, in that crucial instant, something shifted, the lines of her resolve becoming stronger, her heart opening just enough to see the truth. "Rachel," the officer shouted, pushing through. "You need to get out of here. Do you want us to help you?" It felt as though our emotions danced in a fragile wave. The only connection I could offer was through sheer love, my heart expanding inside my chest. "We can do this together," I urged, my voice strong and unwavering. "There's nothing I wouldn't sacrifice to protect you. Please, say the word." As I waited on bated breath, could feel Rachel battling what was left, all the intricacies of a war fought between fear and love, resilience and surrender. And she held the very key to unleash the light hidden within. A tense silence settled around as her gaze shifted, weighing the choice hanging before her. She looked at the men, then at the officer, then finally back at me. Just as it felt as if the world around us held its breath, she seemed to flicker with clarity. "Let's go," she finally said, glancing toward the Officara declaration that seemed to slice through the tension in the air and produce a powerful ripple. Without hesitation, I seized her hand, pulling her into me. The chaos began to swirl back to life, whirling around us as people moved and shadows retreated. "Follow me," I said, feeling the surge of adrenaline, praying we'd make it. Together, we began to move toward the nearest exit, breaking free from the stranglehold of our fears as we slipped out into the cool, liberating air of the night. Just as we crossed the threshold, I heard the second man call out, "This isn't over." His words chased us, but with every step forward, the weight of his threats felt less daunting. "I don't care," Rachel shouted back, her confidence booming, the cracks of her resilience glistening bright. "You may have tried to claim me, but am not for sale." And as we raced outside, the reality of the situation settled beneath a blanket of uncertainty, unearthing the strength that had always dwelled within her. With the sirens wailing softly behind us, my heart filled with ferocious pride. We moved forward towards the light, sure of one undeniable truth: whatever storm awaited us, we would fight it together. Together, we would reclaim the parts of our lives that had been lost in shadows. Standing under the night sky, I looked at Rachel, her face glowing with bravery as the laughter faded behind us. "You're so much more than you ever realized," I whispered. And as she beamed back, a fierce determination ignited in her expression. I knew then that we would face the darkness together, for every shadow is driven back by the light of love. "Together," she echoed softly, and at that moment, the weight of forgiveness settled between USA promised to face whatever came next side by side. As we stepped into the future, I understood this: life's greatest struggles were simply our own unfolding stories, waiting to be rewritten. And as long as we had each other, we had the power to reclaim our narrative, together, forever, she whispered, reminding me that although challenges may come, love will carve the way forward. In that moment, everything felt achingly beautiful, clear and unbreakable, filled with the promise of connection that would bind our spirits for the journey ahead.